Hi, my name's Douglas Holmes, and today is the 28th of February 2018, and over the last couple of days I've been working on a project. It's called the Recovery Bus, and what we're going to do in this session is just briefly talk about the little acronym that I use to identify whether or not we take the project to the next level. You'll see up here the G stands for grab, and you'll see that we've got a catchy name called Recovery Box. It's going to be supported by MH Works, and the reason we've settled on that name is that Peter Hawes has created a range of products that he sells in these boxes. Looks very much like Telstra or Apple or any of those, but this one in particular is something that Peter's created. And what we're going to be able to do is to build some applications that fit inside that, and it'll be appropriately branded. The L is about L is for link, and it's linking it into the work we do, and we're both quite interested in recovery and also hearing voices, and we work together on a number of projects around the hearing voices, so that's part of the reason why we think that is, and it'll become clear a little bit later on why we've settled on that name. The first O is for outcomes, and when we're going through this the first time, we just usually get people to think about some of the things that they might want to achieve through this process. It's also a way of actually starting to find out how big the project is. The first S is around structure, and with events and projects and things, there'll be a whole raft of stuff that fits under that. Is stuff like what what sort of resources do you need, like from humans, from money, do you need to use a building, what is it you want to do with that. And of course there's a number of structural things that we have. We will definitely have a product. It'll be a box, but it'll also be a range of other products, and we'll talk about those later. You'll need a flyer with some information about how you sell it and how people can actually buy it. We've currently set a date for when the product will be launched, and that's the 14th of September. That just ties in with World Mental Health Day, and we're calling it Voices for Recovery. That ties in with Recovery Month in America, and we want to build on some of the work that's been done over there. The launch is going to be held in Lake Macquarie at Club Macquarie, and we'll have a couple of people in a working group that will be doing some work on that. For me, the most important thing is the second S, and that's about what satisfaction people will actually have from being involved in the project. And that's at a couple of levels. That's from actually doing the work, also thinking about the amount of time that's tied up with these things. They sound simple when you start talking about them, but some of these things take quite a lot of effort. But it's also what satisfaction will people get from actually using the products, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the end, around the future. At the end of the project, and at different times through the project, you want to be able to check back on whether the outcomes that you identified you're actually meeting them. And some of the things that we've talked about is about actually creating the product. And part of the product, well, this is fairly easy to see. What Peter and I have both talked about is that there's an enormous amount of really useful information that's already out there on websites and Facebook pages, stuff that's been written, and a raft of tools. And what we want to do is make it easier for people to find those. Really important, collecting feedback along the way, and having some time when you just stop and reflect to see that you are actually keeping on track. And the last thing, of course, is well, what are we going to do with this in the future? Because this part's really easy. This part's just doing some brainstorming. You're not really thinking about where the money is, but I know someone's going to ask me to do a business plan. It's how you actually make sure that what you're sourcing in these are not going to cause you more headaches than the money they generate. And you also want some way, which for people to actually have some suggestions to come back. Where we think the product will eventually go to is, I've been involved in a couple of conferences. I'm aware of most of the national and state-based organisations. They have fairly large networks, and what we'd be looking to do is to go along to some of the conferences, do some demonstrations in some of the mental health services, and slowly over time through our information, and that'll be a website and Facebook page, and looking forward to creating something that will possibly have some ongoing use in the mental health sector. Some of the other products that might go into the box are some recovery sticks, and what we did there with those, we actually had a camp last year where we everybody that came to the camp, we actually gave them 5 sticks, and we asked them to, over the next 2 or 3 days, because the camp went for a week, was to think about words that meant something for their recovery, and to write them, and we videoed a number of those as an example. Another thing that we've been working on, of course, is the Recovery Bus website, and that will become where some of the information people will gain around services. And of course the Recovery Quilt is looking at the National Mental Health Standards, and we've had 16 people that have indicated their willingness to be involved, and that will be like a useful thing in itself. So just to finalise, we are creating the recovery box. At this stage, this will be at a very minimum what's in the recovery box, but there will be a range of other things. We're looking at doing a launch on the 14th of September, and the forum there will be called Voices for Recovery, and that's building on the National Mental Health Recovery Network. So thank you for your patience, and look forward to working with you and hearing feedback from you along the way.